What is happening in Memphis? President Trump is deploying the National Guard to the city, calling it a replica of his successful crackdown in Washington, D.C., but is this the right approach to fighting crime? We're breaking down the details and the controversy. Then, we're going international as President Trump announces a second U.S. military strike against a Venezuelan drug cartel vessel, this time resulting in 3 fatalities. We've got the full story on this high-stakes operation in international waters. And we're going back to Memphis for a closer look at the Memphis Safe Task Force that President Trump has just signed into action. What does this mean for the city and its residents as federal and National Guard forces move in? These are just some of the major stories dominating the headlines. Make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell on so you don't miss a single update. Let's dive in. Trump unleashes National Guard on Memphis. Is Chicago next? President Donald Trump has just signed an order sending the National Guard into Memphis, marking a significant escalation in his crime crackdown strategy. This move is being hailed by some as a necessary step to restore order, but critics are already raising alarms about presidential overreach and the potential for authoritarian tactics. Trump himself described the deployment as a replica of the task force he previously sent to Washington, D.C., aiming to replicate its perceived success in combating crime. The operation will reportedly involve the National Guard, the FBI, and other federal agencies, with Trump explicitly stating that Chicago might be the next city to face such a deployment. This decision comes despite recent reports from Memphis police indicating a decrease in major crime categories and overall crime hitting a 25-year low, with murder rates also at a 6-year low. However, gun violence has remained a persistent issue, with over 390 homicides recorded in 2023. The deployment has drawn mixed reactions, with Memphis Mayor Paul Young stating he did not request the National Guard and questioning its effectiveness in reducing crime. This action targets a Democratic-run city, continuing a pattern seen in previous federal interventions. Public reaction has been swift, with many questioning the necessity and legality of deploying military forces within American cities. Analysts are closely watching the unfolding events, debating the impact on civil liberties and the balance of power between federal and local authorities. Social media is abuzz with discussions about the Make Memphis Safe Again slogan and the broader implications for urban policing. But is this federal intervention truly making cities safer, or is it a dangerous overreach? We'll explore the potential consequences. And coming up, President Trump makes a bold announcement about a second military strike in international waters. U.S. military strikes Venezuelan drug vessel, 3 dead. In a dramatic escalation of his anti-drug campaign, President Donald Trump announced that U.S. military forces have conducted a second kinetic strike against what he identified as an extraordinarily violent drug trafficking cartel operating in international waters. The strike, carried out on his orders, resulted in the deaths of 3 individuals aboard a Venezuelan vessel reportedly en route to the United States. Trump took to social media to declare that these cartels pose a direct threat to U.S. national security and interests, vowing to continue hunting those attempting to bring drugs into the country. This operation follows a similar strike earlier this month that claimed 11 lives, intensifying animosity between Washington and Caracas. Venezuelan officials have accused the U.S. of intercepting civilian boats and violating international law, sparking concerns about extrajudicial executions and due process. Critics have questioned why suspected drug traffickers aren't apprehended rather than killed, especially given the U.S. military's history of misidentifying targets. Trump defended the strike, citing debris scattered across the ocean that he claimed were large bags of cocaine and fentanyl, though the provided footage did not definitively confirm this. The actions are occurring amidst heightened tensions, with Trump having previously dispatched warships to pressure Venezuela and accusing President Nicolás Maduro of heading a cocaine cartel. Maduro, in turn, has denounced U.S. officials and asserted Venezuela's right to self-defense. The ongoing conflict raises critical questions about international law, sovereignty, and the U.S. role in combating drug trafficking through military force. These international actions are raising eyebrows and sparking debate worldwide. But what does this mean for domestic policy back home? We've got more on President Trump's strategy right after this. Memphis crime crackdown, National Guard deployed. President Donald Trump has officially signed an order to deploy the National Guard to Memphis, marking his latest move to assert federal authority in combating urban crime. This deployment is explicitly framed as a replica of the federal intervention previously seen in Washington, D.C., signaling a consistent strategy to tackle crime in American cities. The task force will reportedly include personnel from the FBI, DEA, ICE, and U.S. Marshals, aiming for a comprehensive law enforcement surge. This initiative is backed by Republican Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, who expressed frustration with crime impacting Memphis. However, the decision has faced significant opposition from Memphis Mayor Paul Young, who stated he did not request the National Guard and believes it's not the optimal approach to crime reduction. He has indicated a desire to influence the Guard's role, suggesting non-combat tasks like traffic control or camera monitoring. Despite police reports showing a decrease in crime rates, the city's persistent issues with gun violence, including over 390 homicides in 2023, have been cited as justification for the deployment. The move has ignited debate about the boundaries of presidential power and the use of military force domestically. Civil liberties advocates and some local officials are exploring options, including potential lawsuits, to challenge the deployment. Meanwhile, Trump has also indicated Chicago as a potential next target, despite facing resistance from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, underscoring a federal-local governance tension. While Memphis grapples with this new federal presence, other cities are watching closely. What other bold moves is President Trump planning? We'll reveal the next headline right after this. Trump establishes Memphis Safe Task Force amidst deployment. President Donald Trump has officially established the Memphis Safe Task Force through a signed memorandum, formalizing the deployment of federal resources and the National Guard to combat crime in Memphis. This initiative represents a significant step in the president's broader strategy to address crime in American cities. Drawing parallels to his previous actions in Washington, D.C., the task force aims to bring together various federal agencies, including the FBI, DEA, ICE, and U.S. Marshals, alongside the National Guard, to implement a robust crime-fighting effort. This development follows closely on the heels of President Trump's announcement regarding the National Guard deployment. While the specific operational details and timeline remain under development, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has voiced support for the initiative, viewing it as a crucial step to curb crime in Memphis. However, the move has been met with skepticism and opposition from Memphis Mayor Paul Young, who expressed that the National Guard was not requested and questioned its efficacy. Despite recent crime statistics showing some decreases, persistent issues like gun violence continue to be a concern for the city. The establishment of the task force and the deployment of the National Guard are expected to have a significant impact on the city's dynamics and policing. Community leaders and residents are closely monitoring the situation, with discussions ongoing about the best approaches to ensure public safety while respecting civil liberties. The administration's focus on Memphis and potential future deployments to cities like Chicago highlights a continuing emphasis on federal intervention in local crime issues. This Memphis initiative is just one piece of a larger, complex puzzle. What other major announcements are coming out of the White House? Stay tuned to FlickPop for all the breaking news. And that's your FlickPop update. We saw President Trump deploy the National Guard to Memphis, escalating his crime crackdown strategy. Then, the U.S. military carried out a second strike on a Venezuelan drug vessel, resulting in 3 deaths. We took a deep dive into the Memphis Safe Task Force and its implications. Finally, we looked at the ongoing debate surrounding federal intervention in urban crime. Don't miss out on any of these critical stories. Smash that like button, subscribe to FlickPop for more exclusive content, ring that notification bell so you never miss an update, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and follow us on all our social platforms. See you next time.